couldn't get across. I jumped on your papa cause I thought it was a horse now. Rode him over, give him a Coca-Cola, lemon soda, sauce of ice cream, take soap and water for to keep it clean. Up she jumped, down she fell, her mouth flew open like a mushroom shell now. Ride her over, give her Coca-Cola, lemon soda, sauce of ice cream, take soap and water for to keep it clean. Your sister was a teddy, your daddy was a bear. Put the mud on your mama cause she had bad hair now.
Back to Coast, I'm George Norrie. Charles Seif, he's been on the program before, writer for Science Magazine, where he covers physics and cosmology. Prior to his involvement with science journalism, he was a mathematician, and he received his undergraduate degree from Princeton, MS from Yale's mathematics department. In addition, Charles has attended Columbia Journalism School, member of the National Association of Science Writers, and here he is on Coast to Coast this hour. Charles, welcome back, my friend. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Good. You know, we have kicked around a lot of ideas on this program about what do we do to stop this spill in the Gulf of Mexico. And one idea that came up, probably from me, was can you nuke it? And a lot of people I've talked to say, no, you can't. But I want to get your take on that. Can we nuke that area?
Well, it's not as crazy as it sounds. In fact, something similar has been tried, not by us directly, but by Russia. In the 1960s, they had some problems with runaway gas wells, not oil, but natural gas. First one was in 1963, and this was a really awful gas fire. They lost control of the well, and the fire started about half a mile down under the earth, so they really couldn't get at it. And it was filled with hydrogen sulfide, very poisonous, so people couldn't get near it. They tried for 3 years everything they possibly could to turn off this gas well and stop the fire, and they could get nothing. Nothing would work. So after about 3 years, what they did was they dug a hole.
3 years?
3 years.
Oh, my God.
It was just spewing out poison. In fact, I think the volume of gas was enough to light a small city like St. Petersburg.
Amazing.
So this was basically an entire city's worth of energy just going up to waste for 3 years. And so what they did was they drilled a hole next to the well, about 1,500 meters deep, almost a mile, and cooled it down because there's temperatures and pressures down it that would set off a device. They dumped a nuclear weapon down it, set it off, and 23 seconds later, the fire went out. Just boom.
Now, what kind of calculations? You're a mathematician. What kind of calculations do you think they tried to do, Charles, in the event something went awry? I mean, could they have blown up half the region?
Yeah, it was the nuclear weapon itself was so deep that they figured that the explosion itself would be fairly well contained. It could have possibly made the gas fire worse, but I don't think they were that concerned about it. It was on land. It was in the middle of nowhere. They figured it was worth a try. And the calculations aren't that good either. Sometimes they do have nuclear oopsies, and Russia has, with this program that's called Program Number 7, they had a couple of problems, including one where they irradiated part of the Siberian tundra and had an exclusion zone because it vented some radioactive gas.
Does it have to be a nuke, though, Charles? How about a bunker buster? One of those big bombs.
It has to be really, really large, unfortunately. I don't think that you could get it with a conventional explosive. To get these well shutoffs, you have to be within about 30 meters of the well, and that is with a bomb about twice the size of Hiroshima, so about 30 to 40 kilotons. You need to be within 30 or 40 meters. So that's really pretty close, and you've got to have a huge bomb to do it. If you were to do that with a conventional explosives, you wouldn't do that. And you also wouldn't have the heat required to glassify the rock, which is kind of what seals the rock. With conventional explosives, you can get rubble down there. But with a nuclear explosive, you basically turn the rock into glass.
I would guess because it's in the Gulf of Mexico and it's really not that far from the coastlines they probably have ruled that out. Is that a pretty good assumption?
That is a pretty good assumption. With the Gulf of Mexico, I think I'm not a geologist, but the geologists tell me that the substrate is such that it almost certainly would make matters worse. That you'd probably throw up the substrate and the oil would start leaking through in a whole bunch more places. And in fact, if you look at the history of Program Number 7, and there was an equivalent program in the United States called Project Plowshare. This was intended to not turn off gas and oil wells, but to turn them on. And the Soviet Union experimented with both oil and gas. The United States experimented with gas, and they were somewhat successful that they were both able to get oil or gas wells to produce more. The problem is the oil and gas wound up being radioactive. In the United States, no one wanted to use the gas. In the Soviet Union, no one wanted to use the oil.
In your lifetime, Charles, have you ever come across something as bizarre and as frustrating as this thing?
Oh, this is an unmitigated disaster. This is a once in a lifetime event. I mean, it's on the order of Katrina or Chernobyl.
Yeah, to me, it's tantamount to the Noah's flood. I mean, it's that kind of biblical disaster.
Yeah, this is the petroleum industry's Chernobyl. I think that you often think of nuclear power and how awful it is with potential contamination of the environment, and Chernobyl was about as bad as things can get with the nuclear industry. This is as bad as things can get with petroleum, and in some ways, it is worse than Chernobyl. This is incredible.
Truly is. Charles, we're going to take phone calls with you when we come back. A lot of people want to sound off on this thing. It's been a frustrating point for so many people, so we'll take phone calls with you. Charles Seif, our special guest right now, his websites, he's got a couple of them, are linked up at coasttocoastam.com right now. If you need to email me,